2023 is almost here, which means new Pokemon, new events, and 12 brand new community days. Technically 11, plus 3 Community Day Classic events. And today I'll be using science, math, and the power of prophecy to predict next year's Community Day Pokemon. And to see the future, we must peer into the past. Last year, I made my predictions for 2022's Community Day Pokemon. And looking back on it, I made 19 predictions and got 2 correct. So basically, I'm a completely reliable source. Also, give me your Community Day predictions down in the comment section below to see who's better at predicting. Probably you. Although this year, I've got a really good lineup. And looking back on last year's 2022 Community Days, we had kind of a weird trend. We didn't get any starter Pokemon for Com Day, which ruled out 3 of my predictions. And as for new shiny Pokemon releases, we only had 4 the entire year, which seems like not a lot at all. And that means that there were 7 re-released shinies for Community Days. But we also did get 1 brand new Pokemon that came out during Com Day and 3 really good classic events. So for 2023, I expect a much different lineup, one that is hopefully much more exciting, in part because 2023 will be the first full year back after the pandemic, which I'm hoping means we go back to pre-pandemic Community Day lineups, which were much better. And that includes starters. Bring back the starter Com Days, which is where my predictions will begin. The Generation 6 starters. They are literally years overdue for their shiny debut, and they're all really good. For starters, Fennekin and the entire family looks incredible as shinies. And Fennekin's evolution, Delphox, could really use some love in game. It's got a pretty low max CP of 3,459, so unfortunately it doesn't really have much hope as a raid boss counter, but with the right moves, because it's a dual psychic and fire type, which is interesting, it could become somewhat relevant in PvP, and because it's a fire starter in Pokemon Go, we'd most likely see it get Blast Burn. And I'm not quite sure what that would do for it in the meta, but it would be sick. Next starter would be one of my top 10 least favorite Pokemon ever, Chespin. Sorry, Chespin fans. Granted, Chespin and family does have a really nice looking shiny, and its evolution Chestnut has kind of a similar story to Delphox. Low max CP, not really that useful, but it does rank decently in PvP, and with the right moves, it could be very useful, especially considering it's a dual grass and fighting type. And again, since it's a starter for Community Day, we'd probably see it get the classic grass type Community Day starter move, Frenzy Plant. Lastly, for the starters would be the most iconic from Generation 6, Froakie. That's because Froakie's evolution, Greninja, is one of Pokemon Go's most popular starter Pokemon ever. And its shiny is incredible. And unfortunately, like the other Gen 6 starters, it sucks. So getting an OP Com Day move could really help this, again, iconic Pokemon out. And side note, I doubt we'd see Ash Greninja released during the Community Day of Froakie. That would most likely come later during a paid ticketed event, knowing the new Niantic. So technically that's already 3 new shiny Pokemon predictions, which means we only have room for 1 new shiny, if we're going by 2022 standards, which I won't think will be the case. So as for new shiny Pokemon releases in 2023 for Community Day, I expect some fun ones. Like Vanillite and family, which are purple and amazing. Vanillix maxes out around 3,200 CP, and as a pure ice type, isn't that useful and probably wouldn't become that useful. But who really cares? It's a new shiny for a Com Day, and it's kind of a cute one. It would still be fun. Even more fun would be a rare new shiny release, and I know just the one. The 12-kilometer egg exclusive Sandile. I actually remember getting this shiny in Pokemon Sword and Shield back in the day. Super epic moment. And Sandile's family as a shiny looks really, really good, with Crocodile having a yellow tan look to it. Crocodile, by the way, is a dual grounded dark type Pokemon, which is super cool, and it maxes around 3,400 CP. Definitely something that, with the right moves, could become a little useful in game. And it would be a really nice way to release one of Pokemon Go's rarest 12-kilometer egg Pokemon. I would much rather have it released through Community Day than through the 12-kilometer eggs like Pawniard, because I could hatch 100 12-kilometer eggs and still not get that shiny, which is why I haven't tried yet. I also predict a new spooky shiny released during October Community Day in 2023. Because this year we had Litwick, which was one of my favorites of 2022. So what do I think October will bring next year? The Gothita shiny family. Its shiny is a bit more subtle, kind of reminds me of Darkrai, going from black to that faded purple. But it would be cool to have this historically spooky spawn drop on Com Day in October. And Gothitelle might be able to find some usefulness in PvP with the right moves. Emphasis on might. Final new shiny Pokemon prediction, bit of a wild card, Pikipek. I doubt its evolution to Cannon will find any level of meta relevancy, but it's a really cool Pokemon and a really good looking shiny. It would be one of those like less relevant but still super hyped Calm Days, especially if it was Pikipek's shiny debut release. Switching gears to a newer feature we've had, which I've liked a lot, Community Day Classic events. We had 3 in 2022, and I expect another 3 in 2023, and I'm going big on my predictions. Starting with the one and only King Larvitar. I'm also saying this because apparently there were some leaks, and a lot of people are predicting Larvitar as January's Community Day Classic Pokemon, which would honestly be epic considering the last time Larvitar had a Community Day event was back in June of 2018. And since then, Tyranitar has maintained its top position in the Rock-type meta in Pokemon GO. So to have another shot at Larvitar Community Day and Tyranitar's exclusive move Smackdown would be really big. I mean, think about how many people have saved a 100% of Larvitar from 2018 just waiting for Smackdown to come back for Tyranitar. This would literally be the perfect classic event. And this year we had Mudkip as a classic event, so next year I predict another starter, Trico. It's got a great teal blue shiny and an awesome shiny family. Oh, and not to mention, its evolution Sceptile just got a brand new Mega, which makes it a top grass type in Pokemon GO. And since we're gonna end up getting Mega Sceptile back in raids early of next year, getting Trico as a Calm Day Classic mid-2023 would make a lot of sense. And for the last classic event, I'm going super optimistic with Beldum. I love shiny Beldum and shiny Metagross in Pokemon GO, and Metagross has been one of the most meta-relevant Pokemon in the entire game since its last Calm Day event, which was back in October of 2018. Plus, Metagross also has a Shadow Shiny, and it has a Mega form which has not been released yet, which we're fingers crossed hopefully gonna see next year. Maybe alongside a Community Day Classic event. Who knows? That would definitely easily be one of the most relevant Calm Day events of the year. Now, it's inevitable that we see a majority of the Community Day events of 2023 feature shiny Pokemon that have already been released. But that doesn't mean that they have to be bad shinies. And I've got some bold predictions. Starting with a sort of boring one because we have to have at least one of those. Oddish and family, which are honestly great shinies. And Oddish has been released as a Shadow, which means it could become a little bit useful in PvP, assuming it got the right moves. But it's a pretty rare shiny that's been around forever, so wouldn't mind getting that as a Calm Day. An easier prediction is February's shiny Pokemon because of the Hoenn Tour. I do fully expect to see a Pokemon from the Hoenn region be featured as February's Calm Day because, again, of the event. And I'm stuck between 3, Aron, Whismur, or Lotad. And if I had to pick one of the 3, I would probably pick Aron, mainly because it has a Mega released. Mega Aggron is currently the second best Steel type in the game, so an Aron Community Day, although not super exciting, would actually be very useful. Plus, maybe we see Aggron get a new move that makes it the best Steel type, who knows? Probably the most obvious Community Day prediction of 2023 is also the most exciting, Axew. Every June, we get a super rare, expensive new shiny Pokemon as the Community Day featured Pokemon. For example, this year we had shiny Dino, and last year we had shiny Gible. And shiny Axew was released earlier this year and should no doubt be next year, June's Calm Day Pokemon, which gives Niantic about 7 months to milk it for all it's worth, so expect to see it in a couple upcoming events, hopefully. But this would definitely be 2023's most exciting Calm Day event, especially considering how awesome Haxorus's shiny looks. This Pokemon also has a whopping max CP of 4,062, which means with the right moves, it could become possibly a super meta relevant Dragon type in game. I mean, which literally happened to Hydreigon this year, so it's possible. Next on the new but exciting shiny lists is a banger, shiny Timber. Timber has been a super exclusive raid and egg shiny Pokemon since March of 2020, and its evolution Conkeldurr is actually wildly meta relevant as a fighting type Pokemon. So it feels right to have the floodgates open for this after nearly 3 years of its shiny being released. And I'll give one wild card for the return shiny for Calm Day. Burmy. Burmy has 3 different forms and 2 different evolutions. The evolutions will never be useful, but it would make for a fun multi-shiny hunt. Okay, now we move on to probably some of the most exciting Community Day predictions, the new Pokemon. This year we saw the release of Stuffle and Beware during Community Day, which was super duper hyped. And we also saw Teddiursa's new evolution, Ursaluna, released during a Community Day event. So for 2023, I've got a couple bold predictions for new Pokemon dropping during Calm Days. Starting with Darumaka. Darumaka's evolution Darmanitan has a Zen form for both the normal and Galarian versions. This form has not been released yet in Pokemon GO, but what more of a fun way, exciting and fun way than Community Day? It's late at night, I'm tired, I'm sorry. Especially considering Darumaka and Darmanitan both have Galarian and normal forms. And the shinies for both are just amazing. Not to mention, Galarian Darumaka is currently one of the best ice types in Pokemon GO. So it would make this hunt fun, new, and meta relevant. Speaking of fun and new, Galarian Zen Darmanitan is a fun fire and ice type Pokemon with a banging max CP of 4,415, which is nearly 1,000 more CP than normal Galarian Darmanitan, which is a top ice type. This would be a super useful, potentially a super useful Pokemon once released. Also, the regular Zen Darmanitan is a dual psychic fire type with a max CP of 4,226. Also could, with the right moves, become a very useful, very meta-relevant Pokemon. This would definitely be one of the most insane comb days of the year if it happened. I'd be so down. Next is a bit of a Stuffle wild card. Larvesta. Larvesta has yet to be released in Pokemon Go, and Volcarona might actually also be super useful. It's a dual bug and fire type Pokemon with a max CP of 4,106. It would be a very hype comm day and possibly a much more meta-relevant one than Stuffle was. I'd be down. Then we have another obvious prediction, in my opinion, Mankey. And not for Community Day Classic, but to introduce a new Pokemon with it. Like with Teddiursa and Ursaluna, Mankey got a brand new evolution as part of the new Pokemon Scarlet and Violet game, introducing Annihilate, a Pokemon we will almost certainly see as a part of a future Comm Day Pokemon in 2023. It's a dual fighting and ghost type Pokemon with a max CP of 3,695, so although it probably won't be super meta relevant in the raids, it could be useful in PvP, and it's definitely a cool looking new Pokemon. And like with any new Pokemon, would make a great Comm Day. Do you have any Community Day predictions that you didn't hear me say today? Let me know yours down in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and check out the other videos on screen. See you in the next video. Thank you for watching.